Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're coming at you with the midweek update in the world of cannabis. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learn something, please just leave a like on it, as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos. And then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the industry, identify top companies that you keep seeing pop up, and take advantage whenever you feel ready if you wish to do so. And we're going to start with this breaking news from Politico Pro. So thank you, Brady Cobb, for tweeting this out about an hour ago because I don't have a subscription to Politico Pro myself. But main thing is, as the stage has been set and we've been anticipating some sort of bipartisan effort to come together and pass SAFE Plus during the lame duck session, well, we'd rather hear this than not, as apparently Politico Pro reports Republicans are open to adding the HOPE Act to a potential SAFE Plus package, Montana Senator Steve Daines told Politico. Now, this doesn't mean much, as all he's saying is that the Republicans are open, but we'd rather hear this than not, right? And so, as predicted, obviously, because when something doesn't happen, it just means that the can gets kicked down the road, and eventually it will happen, right? And so, don't want to put the cart before the horse, but appreciate the confidence that Brady has, saying SAFE plus HOPE as predicted onward. And so, will this be the case? The only time we'll tell at this point, but we're more ready than ever before. Well, at the same time, thank you, Gary Steele, for sharing this one, as we got an updated quote from Senator Cory Booker, changing his tone towards the Safe Banking Act from last year, which we do like to see. And so, this is part of a longer interview, which will be in the description. But essentially, as opposed to last year, where he said he will lie down and do everything in his power to block SAFE because Big Pharma lobbies them to delay passing bills, that is obviously going to benefit the American people. The good news is that there's a lot of lobbying money going for safe banking as well from many industries, including the American Bankers Association. And we know that SAFE is the right thing to do. It's sound policy. It'll make America safer, and obviously better to pass it than not. And so this is Booker changing his tone. It's either now or it might be many years from now. Yeah, no shit. It should be now, Booker. And if you do your job and if you work for the American people, it will be now. If you don't, it'll just prove how corrupt Congress unfortunately is, and it'll just highlight more or less that you work for Big Pharma, not the American people. So the cards are in your hands, and we'll see what you end up doing over the lame duck session. And so why do we need the Safe Banking Act? Especially when they choose not to solve the problem, therefore making it worse over time, as criminals continue to target these dispensaries because they know that they operate in cash. So until the Dems do their job and pass the Safe Banking Act, getting this cash off the streets and letting these cannabis dispensaries in the industry use credit cards like any other industry in the U.S., this problem will continue. So thank you, Joe Greiser, for sharing another unfortunate incident in Sweet Sun City, California. Please continue probe into armed robbery of cannabis shops. This will continue until the Dems do their fucking job. So we can blame it on the Dems until now. They've done no action, creating more crime. All they've done is virtue signaling, but the stage is set. Let's hope they do something, man. And so with that, from Jungle Java sharing this one from CannabisLifeNetwork.com, legal cannabis banking in the U.S., odds are better than ever. And so we are hopeful with 9 Republican co-sponsors. There is a reasonable chance that the Safe Banking Act in its current form will be voted on and be passed, says Jason Wilson, ETF, MG, cannabis research and banking expert. So more on this link below if you wanted to read it, but just sharing what this expert has to say and what he believes could be coming in the near future. And so with that, an update on what we saw, I think, Tuesday, yesterday, on this House Democrat and Republican subcommittee on cannabis. So House Democrats and Republicans have co-published a joint memo ahead of a congressional subcommittee meeting on cannabis on Tuesday. So I'll relay the highlights of that, laying out key background details on the issues that will likely inform the conversation at the meeting. And so there's a link here if you wanted to read more about that. But the hearing will focus on addressing these following issues, 1, 2, and 3. So you can pause to read. There's so much news in here. This video is going to be really long if I try and read through a lot of the stuff. So you can check out what they would be talking about, but just wanted to share some highlights from it as well. So this was from yesterday. So thank you, Samantha Manning, for sharing this. As of about 11:38 a.m., Ranking Member Nancy Mace asks witnesses about overdose deaths caused by cannabis. Testimony says, according to the federal government, the number is 0. And so we'd love to see that on record. Further highlighting what we've known for a long time, that cannabis is far less toxic and dangerous to the human body than many legal substances that people are addicted to and use every single day. And the fact that the federal government is acknowledging this, I think that's pretty big. And so a few more highlights. This one from Sarah Anderson. So thank you, Sarah, for sharing this. Rep Nancy Mace asks RSI's the opioid crisis is a huge crisis. Can you talk about how legalizing cannabis can impact or address addiction? And we've known this since 2014, a study from Harvard, so Jillian Snyder is this person. In states where they have opened at least one dispensary, we've seen a dramatic decrease in opioid deaths. Again, these are facts. We've known this for a long time. The public doesn't necessarily know this, but the fact that this is coming out and the federal government is acknowledging this, I'd say it's a big win for us. And so far, I think yesterday did go well. So a few other highlights. Brady Cobb tweeting, if we treat cannabis like alcohol, we can legalize it overnight. Now, obviously, we would hope for this. This would be one of the best case outcomes. Obviously, descheduling is sort of what we all want. But obviously this is still speculation. And while descheduling would be great and a massive disruptor, it is definitely a wild card and not something that we're expecting. Although we would love to be pleasantly surprised, just got to agree with Shamsi down here. Amazing delivery by Nancy Mace and her ability to set up the questions in a way that the answers cannot be denied. And so big ups to her. And so last bit from it, Cannabis Business Times, there was a lot to digest from today's 2-hour congressional hearing on federal cannabis reform. So more on the link here from Cannabis Business Times if you wanted to read more up on it. But descheduling is necessary in order to close the growing and untenable divide between state and federal cannabis laws. I do agree. Thank you, Paul, our memento from Normal, on that comment. And again, notice that they're focusing and emphasizing on descheduling, not rescheduling. So while we love to see that, could be the best case outcome in time. Who knows what they have planned. But with that, onto some state news as Marijuana Moment highlights. Missouri regulators, MVPs, released draft cannabis rules 2 days after the voters approved legalization. So great to see that Missouri is going to look a lot like Arizona and not like New Jersey. We are pleased that the department has moved quickly to get draft rules out for public comment. So this link will be below if you wanted to read more on that. Well, we also got a bit more on Missouri, this one from MJBizDaily instead as well. And Missouri could begin rec cannabis sales by early February, official says. So again, love to see them coming right out of the gate like Arizona and not delaying, as opposed to the social equity focused East Coast states that love to ruin everything. And so Missouri's first year sales of adult use could reach up to 550 million, with fourth year sales projected to be 800 million to 900 million. I do think that the more dispensaries that they open, more likely they will be able to eat into the illicit market and drive more growth, but only time will tell. So more on that link, but love to see Missouri getting the ball rolling. As we move on to this one from Arkansas, as medical cannabis generates October revenue for the state. As rec cannabis may have failed at the polls this month, very unfortunate, but the people of Arkansas get what they voted for, so it sucks to be them. But sales of medical cannabis in October continued to show a steady source of revenue for the state, as medical cannabis patients spent about $23.4 million in October at the state's 38 dispensaries to obtain 4,588 pounds. Of the sales, $2.7 million goes to state tax, the Arkansas Department of Finance and Administration reports. And so you can pause to read for a bit more info. And then as well down here, you can pause to read. Just want to highlight the Arkansas Department of Health reports so far that there's 90,148 active patients getting cannabis there. And so with that, Croptober in Michigan, possibly. So thanks, Shumsey, for sharing this one, as October numbers are way down from September and in August. But we weren't expecting September to be such a blowout compared to August, as it's usually just July that's the really big moneymaker in the summer. Then we see August and September fall down, and it sort of builds back up into December. We're not seeing that in October, or we're not seeing that in Michigan, sorry. Why is that? I'm not exactly sure. But numbers down to 163.5 million in total of rec and med as well, down from 211 million and 207 million. So you got to wonder, is the illicit market coming into this? I don't necessarily know, but just sharing this. So unfortunate news from Michigan, but hopefully this will bounce back in time, and I imagine it will, at least for the Christmas season. So you can pause to read for a bit more. This is for the adult use and the medical breakdown. Well, we've got an updated comp sheet from Pierre Gilles, so thank you, Pierre Gilles. While I usually put these in my Sunday videos, it was not updated by then, or at least didn't grab the sheet. So Florida THC market share comp sheet top 8, and so this is done as of November 11th. So yeah, that was my bad, I missed that, but just wanted to share this. So this is the MSOs that have the most market share in Florida. Starts off with Trulieve, Curaleaf, Muv, which is backed by Verano, Air Cannabis Dispensary, Air Wellness, Certera Wellness, Fluent, Grow Healthy, and then Vitacan. And so you can pause to read, but also on that note, just wanted to share that Florida did add week over week 2,197 patients. So good to see them continue to recruit more people to a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative than opioids. And so with that, just wanted to share this news out of Kentucky, as a 1123 executive order will allow Kentuckians to possess small amounts of cannabis to treat 21 conditions. Cannabis must be lawfully purchased in a state where purchase is legal. And so while Kentucky is not legalizing it, they are giving the citizens the ability to go to other states, buy it, and bring it back, as long as they have the receipt and they can't buy more than 8 ounces. So that's very bullish. A very interesting approach. We haven't seen a state do this, but more on this one from the governor himself, Andy Beshear. And so today I signed an executive order that will allow Kentuckians with certain severe medical conditions to possess and use small amounts of medical cannabis if the following conditions are met. So thank you, Adam, for sharing this one. And then also more on this link will be below in the description, but you can pause to read essentially what their plans are and what they will allow. And so with that, on to this one from New Jersey. So thank you, Joe Greisler, for sharing another one. Study: New Jersey's glacial pace on legal cannabis licenses, therefore slowly or not opening new stores, may allow illicit sales to flourish. Because if you don't open more legal outlets to combat the illicit market will outcompete the legal market. It's just basic supply and demand. As New Jersey's home to roughly 8 million people, and from my understanding, there's only 19 legal dispensaries right now. Like, what a joke. That's not properly supplying the demand. And so if you don't properly supply the demand legally, the black market is going to do it illegally. And so it's New Jersey's own to lose if the incompetent regulators can't get their head out of their asses. While Cannabis Business Times shares, apparently Minnesota's governor says adult use cannabis legalization is priority for upcoming legislative session. As this is coming from the former Minnesota governor, Jesse Ventura, who said during a recent podcast with his son, Tyrell Ventura, that Waltz told him legalizing cannabis cannabis will be one of the first things that state lawmakers will pass next year, according to a CBS Minnesota report. And so likely Ventura wouldn't be sharing this if it wasn't true. Obviously, only time will tell. But good news is you can pause to read the rest, and Minnesota's 2023 legislative session is set to start on January 3rd. And so at least if that is true, we will see some momentum and some efforts being made in early January, hopefully out of Minnesota. So that would be great. Well, we move on to MSO news. Verano announces third quarter 2022 financial results. And so while there's just so many stories, I'm not going to read into these too much, but just going to share and you can pause to read. So third quarter 2022 financial highlights. You can pause to read for the summary right here from Verano. While 2022 third quarter operational highlights, you can pause to read as well for summary. And then lastly, subsequent operational highlights. Well, lastly, management commentary, you can pause to read if you're interested. Otherwise, you can grab the link below, but I do have these breakdowns from others who have more background in training and finance than I do, and I'd rather share what they have to say because they've been trusted in the past and try to give you my takeaways. And so Q3 2022 earnings, thank you, Sayshu, for sharing so I can share with my audience his takeaway on Verano. You can pause to read from 1, 2, and 3. And then down from 4 all the way down to GMs will decline due to price pressure, mix in value, mid-tier, Florida Hurricane. Pause to read. And then from 7 down to 11 midway through, you can pause to read. Up down to unclear how much of an impact the company has seen as a result of. And then from 11 down to end. So thank you, Sayshu, for sharing that. And along with Sayshu's, I also have Cannavestments as well. So thank you, Cannavestments. You've got 2 that you can compare these to. A decent but mixed Q3 from Verano Brands. Positives, good margin expansion and OPEX control in an inflationary environment while turning on new assets. Negatives, top line growth was muted in Q3 and guided to in Q4 despite retail additions, while tax-adjusted cash flow turned negative. And so more on this if you wanted to pause to read. Otherwise, you can grab the links below. And so we did get more earnings, though, as Cresco Labs announces third quarter 2022 results. So again, just going to do a quick summary. Company reports $210 million in revenue and continues industry leadership with branded product performance. The company took actions to improve long-term profitability and prepare for the integration of Columbia Care in 2023. And so I think that's what most of us shareholders are waiting for at this point in time, when Cresco Labs and Columbia Care will combine to create a new entity that will compete with the other MSOs that have that much larger retail footprint that Cresco has been lacking up until now. And so while the deal was expected to originally go through around this time in this quarter, it's a big deal and it's taking longer. But the good news is, I think from the Cresco Labs and the Columbia Care earnings calls, is that the deal is still expected to go through, just going to take a bit longer in 2023. And so just wanted to share some things from the third quarter 2022 financial highlights, and I'll spend a little bit more time on this just because Cresco, I'm a shareholder and it's my largest position. So I'm just going to highlight some of the things that I like still, and at least some of the reasonings for why stuff's down. So third quarter revenue of $210 million, down 2% year over year. Yikes. Not good to see year over year decline, but why is that? Growth in emerging markets was offset by price compression, increased verticality by retailers, and the company's strategic exit of third-party distribution in California in Q4 of 2021. And no doubt it's been a tough environment for all businesses in all industries, but still impressed that they've managed to at least maintain this baseline. While adjusted for change in the company's California business, non-GAAP third quarter revenue would have been over 2% year over year. And so it seems like had they not made that changes, they'd make more money in California, but better to make those changes now. That'll hopefully make them more profitable in the future. But wholesale revenue still of $93 million, which maintained the company's position as the #1 U.S. seller of branded cannabis products in the industry, with leading share positions in flower, concentrates, and vape categories. I do like that they're still focusing on getting their brand to be #1, as apparently they maintain market leadership in Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts. Unfortunately, 3 difficult social equity focused markets, but still good to maintain the leadership there. While retail revenue increased 11% year over year to $118 million, or an average of $2.35 million per store open for the entire quarter. So whatever they're doing in the store to cut costs and increase growth, seems like they're really good at it, and hopefully they'll bring that to the Columbia Care stores, while generating $26 million in operating cash flow from this quarter and ended the quarter with $130 million in cash on hand. While lastly, on November 4th, 2022, Cresco Labs announced planned divestitures of Cresco and Columbia Care assets in New York that they're selling to P. Diddy. And so the other interesting thing is that there are more assets that they have to divest and sell, and so hopefully they'll be able to make a decent amount of change from that as well. But big deal getting that to Diddy, who's a proven marketer and grown a lot of brands in the past. So I think that's a good combination to have. And so more on this, though, management commentary and balance sheet liquidity and other financial information you can pause to read. Otherwise, you can go down and grab the numbers. And unfortunately, I do not have a report from Sayshu or Cannavestments on a further breakdown. But once I do get that, I will put that in the comment section just so that you have that to compare it to as well. And so with that, on to Columbia Care, they report their third quarter 2022 results. Again, don't want to spend too much time going through this because the video is going to be too long, but just the highlights. Quarterly revenue of $133 million, an increase of 2.4% quarter over quarter. Thank you, New Jersey. I imagine that's what Columbia Care is thinking. Gross profit of $52 million, an increase of 2.5% quarter over quarter. Adjusted gross margin of 43%, an increase of 33 basis points quarter over quarter. With adjusted EBITDA of $21 million, an increase of 74.5% quarter over quarter. And adjusted EBITDA margin of 16%, an increase of 653 basis points quarter over quarter. Chapter. Basically, a lot of saying that they are improving slowly but surely. And again, I think the good news and the takeaway is that they do believe that the merger with Columbia Care and Cresco Labs will close in early 2023. And so you can pause to read for a quick look at the numbers. Otherwise, you can grab the link in the description if you wanted to go through the entire earnings release from Columbia Care. But at the same time, just wanted to highlight before we move on, top 5 markets by revenue in Q3 and top 5 markets by adjusted EBITDA in Q3. Thank God for New Jersey's. It's already number 3 and number 2 on their list. So no doubt that is helping, and it can only get better as they open more legal outlets, hopefully over time. And so with that, this also came from the conference call with Columbia Care, from my understanding. So thank you, MJ Stock Trader, for sharing this. Merger update per Columbia Care. Closing of Cresco transaction anticipated to be around the end of the first quarter of 2023. And so that's the source of where I'd gotten this from. Sounds like March, not necessarily sure, still up in the air, so still speculation, but this is better to hear than any sort of issues like what happened with Verano and Goodness Growth. And so last few stories, Dennis Rudolphs, thank you for sharing this one. Cannabis Weekly update by Echelon. Past few weeks feel like the plane is about to take off. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments. But for basically a look into Echelon's brain, or a little peek into what they're thinking, cannabis market highlights. Third quarter 2022 earnings mixed through New Jersey adult use clear driver of outperformance. Midterm election results favorable for the cannabis sector yet again. So you can pause to read. Whoops. Next one, and so U.S. developments, a lot here. You can pause to read it if you're interested. Covers a lot, and essentially sort of a recap of a lot of the MSOs and the recent earnings. You can pause to read as well. And then this last one, pause to read also. We move on to this one. Todd Harrison, thank you for sharing this one. Jeffries on New York cannabis, so possible delays in the New York rec timeline. This comes as if there was news that a lawsuit might stall 63 of the 150 dispensary licenses. And so more information on this and the situation in New York if you wanted to pause to read. And so while we have very little hope for New York after everything that they've put us through, they can only, hopefully surprise us if they can get this actually done and at least launch some of these CAURD special licenses that they've handed out by the end of the year. Well, it appears things are looking up in California as voters approved 12 local ballot measures in the 2022 midterm elections that will either expand or create retail cannabis markets in a dozen municipalities. So good job to everyone in these municipalities. Well, everyone in these municipalities sucks to suck, because obviously it's a step in the right direction to help combat the illicit market. Of course, if you have legal dispensaries, you're putting that money back in the local economy as opposed to giving it to organized crime and criminals. And so while California would benefit by adding thousands of dispensaries to properly supply the 40 million population, it'd be nice to see if this was 122 or 1,200 local ballots. It's still a step in the right direction, and at least for those in this municipality, you will learn that when you end cannabis prohibition and you allow legal dispensaries to open up, it actually increases the retail value of your own home too. And so good things come from ending cannabis prohibition. And so last few, we got some studies from Psychology Today. Cannabis may benefit the middle-aged brain. So regular cannabis use may prevent age-related loss of functional connectivity. Sounds counterintuitive, but something that many of us have known for a very long time. And so not going to go through the whole thing, but I do invite you to read through it if you'd like. But key points: regular daily cannabis use in older adults, particularly after retirement, has quadrupled. While cannabis affects human brains differently across the lifespan, younger brains are vulnerable while older brains may benefit from daily use. Cannabis consumption was associated with age-related improvements in brain connectivity, particularly between the hippocampus and the cerebellum. And so sounds very important, and just happy to report. So you can grab the link below if you wanted to read through that more. Well, I've got another study. This one I've featured many times, but just happy that someone saw it and sees the benefit and wants to share it. So thank you, Jeremy Horpedal, for sharing this. One of the best tools that states have to address the opioid crisis is legalizing cannabis. I've been barking this for 2 years now, but just happy to share someone else realizing the same message. As we have the data to prove it, recreational cannabis laws reduce annual opioid mortality in the range of 20% to 35%, with particularly pronounced effects for synthetic opioids. And this is exactly what Nancy Mace was saying on the record in that subcommittee hearing, because this is true. The facts have been out there for a long time. It's just that many don't know. And of course, politicians are paid not to know this sort of thing. And so the link for the real data, though, is in the description below. Just happy to again share that this is real, and I do believe that the green wave is coming. And so lastly, just sharing this one from Clear Cannabis Law Reform from Ireland, a bill that would legalize the personal use of cannabis and make it legal for someone to possess up to 7 grams. It's a bit of a joke. Is set to go before the I don't know how to say that, sorry, in around 2 weeks. The Dail. So anyways, I will put the link in the description if you wanted to check it out. And so it seems like Ireland is taking steps in the right direction to legalize a bit of cannabis. And so obviously a lot of work can be done here to increase the 7 gram limit. And as well, it's still early on, but just happy to share this, and I will update as we get more information as time goes on. And that is it for today's episode, folks. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you on Sunday for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great week, everybody.